YouTube just made $60 billion in revenue, and I'm pretty sure you know why. But it wasn't always like this. YouTube used to lose billions and for a long time, but now it's wildly profitable. What if I told you this wild turnaround wasn't just because of ads? YouTube's new profit is changing what TV means entirely, and it might have accidentally caused one of the biggest mergers in history. Let's start with the first big problem. In 2006, Google acquired YouTube from Chad Hurley and Steve Chen for $1.65 billion in stock. Pretty cheap. But if they didn't, YouTube probably would have shut down pretty soon. At this time, users were uploading 20,000 videos a day, and users were watching 18 million. The costs of this were huge, and they were growing quickly. Each month, YouTube lost hundreds of thousands, and the losses kept growing. But there was a bigger reason: the business model. YouTube had very little monetization, just some banner ads. Just like how Vine blew up and then shut down, and BeReal exploded and then got sold off, YouTube also didn't have a way to make any money, at least more money than they were burning. But under Google, this was okay. They had the cash to burn, and this shows us something even more interesting. In fall of 2004, Wall Street loved Google. AdWords, the search business model, everybody had to own shares. Google had cracked the code on monetizing the internet. Later in 2006, they would buy YouTube for $1.6 billion. Wall Street hates this, hates it. So this is January 2006. The stock falls 27%. Wall Street's like, God, these guys, what are they doing? They're messing it up. They were doing something called cross-subsidization, where profits from one part are used to pay for another. YouTube was just so valuable to have and invest in that Google didn't mind paying the hundreds of millions and soon billions in losses each year because they own the biggest and second biggest websites on earth. But losing money was never the permanent plan. They still had to figure out how to make it profitable, and this wasn't easy. And every year it was costing them more money, more users, more storage, more costs. So what do you add? Well, precisely that. Ads. But this didn't actually solve the problem. Even when Google introduced video ads in 2007, it was still wildly unprofitable. 2 years later, they were still spending $711 million and made just $240 million, a $470 million loss. Eventually, they managed to break even in 2014. But even that was just $4 billion in revenue. It was nothing compared to the revenue it brings in today, $60 billion. So what changed if ads had been there this whole time? As it turns out, ads are only half the battle. And things were only going to get harder from here. For starters, adding ads only solves part of the problem, because many people never even see them in the first place. You might think ad blockers are recent, but they go as far back as 1996. People have always been blocking ads, but something changed in 2014, the same year YouTube crossed the break-even line and could finally start making a return. uBlock Origin, the browser add-on. Soon, many others followed, and millions of people started avoiding ads altogether. This wasn't good, at least for YouTube. Depending on your browser, I'm sure you felt it. YouTube on desktop can feel weirdly slow, laggy, buggy, or even unusable. It's not you, it's YouTube.
So a bunch of people were complaining about this on Twitter this morning, talking about how their YouTube page looks like this, where it seems like YouTube isn't loading in at all. And so I actually stumbled across this tweet where it says, looks like YouTube will not load if you have an ad block enabled. If you're having this issue, just disable your ad block on YouTube. And at this point, I'm like, no. There's no way. Surely they didn't just do this because we have ad block enabled, right? Well, I disabled my ad block, and guess what? My YouTube works now.
The ad block wars had begun. YouTube was increasing CPU usage, delaying load times, and doing anything to get people to stop using ad blockers. They of course denied this, but the evidence seems very strong. All of it happened at once, and it only got worse. I can't type a comment or load anything, but every other tab on Chrome is normal, even other video streaming stuff like Twitch or Netflix. They would even limit comments or video descriptions for certain users. People began fighting back. uBlock Origin had a war room to deploy quick fixes against YouTube. People are still fighting against the endless ads, and one of the best options right now is Brave. This is a privacy-focused browser that blocks ads out of the box, but it doesn't have that laggy experience others do. And for the record, Brave is not a sponsor. It was around this time that Google said in their earnings call, 3 key priorities for ads that we've identified on past calls as opportunities for long-term growth in advertising: Google AI, retail, and YouTube. YouTube was gradually turning up the dial on ads. 5-second ads became 15 seconds, then 30 seconds, then a minute or longer. You could no longer skip some, and you had to watch multiple instead of just one. Sometimes the ads would be longer than the YouTube video itself, and they were cracking down on how to avoid them. Yet ad blockers weren't the biggest factor here. They were doing all of this to push people towards something else: YouTube Premium. Originally launched as YouTube Red in 2015, they've gradually pushed the subscription more and more. Pay to remove the ads, avoid the hassle of ad blockers. And this might be the key when you look at the final piece of the puzzle. For many, the issue isn't actually ads on desktop or even mobile. It's something else. Strangely enough, the key to YouTube's newfound profit is actually TV. Back in that 2023 earnings call, YouTube said, "Shorts, connected TV, and our subscription offerings are key drivers here." Basically, people were watching YouTube on their TV while subscribed to Premium, and this is a big market. In fact, in 2025, YouTube TV viewership actually surpassed mobile, and now they seem to be going even further. In 2025, CEO Neil Mohan said in an official blog, "Our growth on connected TVs is also attracting new advertisers, and we continue to introduce formats that work particularly well on the big screen like QR codes and pause ads." People are watching YouTube for longer periods, and many of those longer videos are watched on TV. Now, YouTube is even showing sports like the NFL Sunday Ticket. In fact, it's why YouTube is secretly the center of streaming, and how they may have accidentally caused the biggest Hollywood merger in history. Speaking of YouTube viewers, you mean a lot to us, and if you could subscribe as we work towards 1 million, we'd really appreciate it. Thank you. In December 2025, Netflix agreed to buy Warner Bros. Discovery's TV, film studios, and streaming division for $72 billion, a deal which had them fight Paramount and the US government. So, what does this have to do with YouTube? Quite a lot, actually. When called before the US Senate, Netflix co-CEO Ted Sarandos said something interesting.
Streaming alone, YouTube is the #1 platform for viewing time. They have NFL football. They have an exclusive deal for the Oscars. They have a deal with the BBC to produce original programming. Some of their creators have bigger budgets than typical Hollywood television shows. YouTube is not just cat videos anymore. YouTube is TV. This explains why Netflix, with all of our success, are only about 9% of TV viewing time in the US. With Warner Brothers, we'll be about 10%.
YouTube is Netflix's biggest competitor. We're competing for the same content, we're competing for the same viewers, we're competing often for the same ad dollars. The data says the same thing. In a Wall Street Journal report about Netflix, Paramount, and Warner Brothers, they incidentally showed that YouTube beats all of these companies, and by a long way. Netflix, which originally stole customers from broadcast and cable TV, has been losing share of the US viewing time recently to YouTube. It has about 13% of US TV viewing time, and this is consistent across the board. YouTube made $60 billion in 2025, while Netflix made $45 billion. In fact, YouTube's revenue would make it #2 among entertainment companies, behind only Disney. The streaming king isn't Netflix, it's YouTube, and this is the genius of YouTube's business model. They have a free tier jam-packed with ads, and a paid plan at $13.99. Everyone else has a plan like this, but with one difference. For streaming, you buy in. Even for a plan with ads, you have to pay. YouTube starts free, it costs nothing, and you upgrade. You might call this the freemium model, but I think YouTube is a bit different. Other freemium platforms give you a little bit and lock everything else behind a paywall. Most of them do this so aggressively though that you basically can't even try the experience. YouTube gives you basically everything up front. You get entrenched, you get used to using YouTube. But instead of money, it costs you something else. Your time, your patience, and your irritation. Then they give you a free trial, 30 days without ads, and it feels like heaven. Then you can never go back. This is called loss aversion. People experience stronger emotions when losing something than when gaining something. Of course, this is basic free trial psychology, except with YouTube, it's even stronger. You're not losing features, you're being assaulted by ads, discomfort, irritation, inconvenience. Meanwhile, Google keeps making free YouTube less and less bearable so more people buy premium, and it works. By 2025, after increasing ads, the advertising revenue of that $60 billion in revenue was $40 billion. And revenue from subscriptions, aka premium, was about $19.6 billion. Not as much as ads, but still a gigantic part of revenue. A lot of people find YouTube unusable without premium, myself included. I don't think I'd get by without premium. The amount of time it saves me is unreal, and that's exactly how YouTube designed it. And that is why YouTube is finally profitable. The same cannot be said about DirecTV, who is on the brink of collapse. Check out this video to learn more, but until then, I'm Hari, and I'll see you guys on the next one.